Hey, what's up, guys? Today we're going to look at installing inside zone within our offense. I'm going to go through a little bit of our rules, our basics here, and also show up some diagrams and then hopefully get to some film clips here. Inside zone, like I talked to you guys before, going to be a big staple in our offense. Always our best, strongest run play. Always a real good, strong play for us. It is our first play we're going to install, and we're going to kind of build everything around. So it's real important we get a good understanding of the total concept. Main concept up front, guys, starting with is to move that down man. And we got to get excellent movement on that double team. Make sure we're getting a push, driving that double team all the way back into the lap of the linebacker as much as possible. It's going to be real tough for us to gain any leverage, gain any yardage on this play if we're not really getting a great movement on that double team. Running back aiming point, play side leg of the center. So we want to make sure that we're keeping that nice and tight to the A gaps. Obviously, with inside zone, you always get a big opportunity for cutback, especially when we're running it at the one technique like we want to in an even front. O-line blocking rules all the way across the board, very few exceptions. Man on, to, and away, and we'll get a little more detailed into that right now. So covered man all across the front, no matter which front they're in, no matter where you're lined up, whether it's center or all the way out to tight end, your rule is block the man on. Pretty simple there. Now you're going to have to take your drive step to gain leverage. However, you need to be in the hole. Make sure you're keeping the defender between you and the ball carrier at all times and getting a great push there. Really important for you guys to understand when you have help and when you do not have help. So obviously, if you have no help coming, if you're solo, maybe a play side tackle with no tight end help or no guard help, you've got to take all of that man, play around with your split a little bit, like we've talked about before, and widen that hole. Take advantage of whatever you have to do in order to be able to get that leverage, and then you just got to bury him. You got to get out of that stance. Great leverage, great push, great force out of your stance, and get that movement on your own. If you're uncovered, you're going to start your progression by looking your first rule, which is 2. You're going to look at that gap 2. Any man in the gap or head up of the next man next to you is considered 2. So you're going to scoop and double team to that man, and you're going to identify your first linebacker threat. You'll see when we get into the diagrams, we'll talk about identifying which linebackers you guys have to get to. So double team with the covered teammate. First, check the play side gap if there is no defender in that play side gap. So no defender in that gap or head up on the man next to me. We're going to check the backside and combo with that backside partner offensive line, that backside covered man. So again, really important, guys, you stay square on that to your linebacker. You don't totally just sell out to that backside, but you clearly identify that linebacker and make sure that you're getting that movement there. Backside tackle or tight end is kind of our exception here. Inside zone is a read play. We talk about it all the time. We're going to read that backside defensive end or end man on the line of scrimmage player. Most of the time that keeps you with a scoop or a sift block that we call on the backside, working through the B gap or the C gap if you're a tight end, making sure that you're getting up to the next level. Unless we give that lock call. We'll talk about the lock call a little bit. It's something new for us this year in our zone install since we're adding some of that RPO game in a little bit. But we're going to go ahead and make sure that we exercise that lock call whenever we need to read that guy for the RPO. You'll have the same rules. If anyone's in that play side gap, you'll combo. You'll combo with the play side, extra offensive lineman that's with you working to a linebacker. If no one's there, you just going to sift up through to that first backside threat there. I talked a little bit already about the techniques, the drive and the scoop. We've worked these a little bit, but your drive block, get your leverage. Your step could vary depending on the shade of the defensive lineman, depending on if you're at the point of attack or if you're on the edge like a tackle or a tight end. It could vary based on if you have help or if you don't have help. But either one of those things, maintain your leverage between the ball and the defender and get that drive, right? Keep those legs pumping, keep the legs moving, and try to widen the hole while getting that vertical push on the front side. The scoop is that lateral step, getting to the double team. Really important, big emphasis that you guys are closing that space off, shutting the elevator door, as I like to say, getting hip to hip and getting that drive and staying all the way, driving all the way. Do not allow any penetration into the backfield. Make sure that we're getting that push again, because this play all starts with that push up front. A couple of diagrams here we talk about. We'll go with this first one here on the inside zone against the 4-3. Okay, we like to run this play over at the one technique. Just gives us kind of the best, advantage, I guess, the best numbers, the best angles to be able to really get that push. I feel like that gives us two double teams. So most of the time, we like to run this out of pistol, because now we're going to be able to clearly identify, and teams aren't going to be able to move around as much, because they're not really going to be sure which way we're going. So makes teams kind of stay a little bit more static there. Starting with our play side tackle here, he's got that solo block. You can see it there below. He's going to be all by himself. He's going to have the option. He can go ahead and take this man a little bit wider by widening his split out, make a more natural seam there. Okay. Next man, he's going to look as he got a man on the play side guard there. He does have a man on, even though he's in the inside gap. He is still considered a man on. So he's going to step there, get his half of the man here, which is going to be that right side of the end of the nose guard. And he's going to start that push. The center here, okay, uncovered. So he's going to first check to his play side. He's going to scoop there and get hip to hip. Now, since these guys are considered the first play side double team, okay, the guard and the center, they're going to be responsible for doubling to the first play side linebacker. All right, so based on, we're going to have to know how teams are reacting to motions and what we're doing with that, so we can kind of anticipate who's going to be a first play side. Since this guy here is, just stacked basically behind the defensive end, he is a threat to our box, to our run box. He's most likely the B gap fill player. So play side guard and center are going to double to him. If we were running this play to the left, say we were running a zone to the left, a 21 inside zone, okay, this stud linebacker out here is not considered inside the box. He's going to be a good 3 or 4 yards outside. Maybe there's a slot out here. Maybe there's a single receiver out here, someone who he's covering. But we're not going to consider him a threat to the run box. So we're going to go ahead and leave him alone. And we're going to move, if we were moving to the left, we would go ahead and choose to the next inside linebacker, which would be the Mike there. All right, continuing on with our 20 zone here. The play side or backside guard, he does have a man on. He's on a backside shade on him here. So he's going to step and get that leverage, make sure he doesn't allow this tackle at all to cross his face. And he's got to really stay square and get his eyes on this Mike linebacker. All right, he wants to make sure that Mike linebacker, if he fills up, which he's most likely going to do when he sees this zone downhill run play, then we got to come up and we got to keep this guy from getting to our play side. So it's important there that we get a great scoop block here from this tackle to take this block over, and most likely end up getting our guard there off of the block. All right. We'll talk a little more in depth with quarterbacks and running backs about our technique here. We're going to use that snatch technique. It's called. So the quarterback's going to have to step back off the midline, clear the midline, and quarterback's going to take what we call a roll step. Get a little more downhill, straight downhill, and he's going to read that first defensive lineman there to the play side. So in this case, it's the nose, right? If we get a great push on him, if we push him towards the play side a little more, he's going to bang it up inside, right? He's got the ability to cut it back here. If we get a good, good movement and good block here on the Mike linebacker, we can cut that back. And if we just absolutely bury this guy to the front side, we can keep him going to the front side there. All right, 3-4 here. We're going to go to the left with the inside zone to the left, which is our 21. All right, so we're got a covered tackle here. Now, since he's got help on this particular play, we don't want him to take that big wide split. If he widens out, that's going to be really hard for that guard to go ahead and get to. So he's going to keep it nice and tight, and we're going to deuce this, right? Any combo between the guard and tackle is considered a deuce. So we're going to deuce it with a drive and a scoop, get really good movement here to this Will linebacker. Now, this Will's going to see this come up most of the time, and our 90-10 rule says that 90% of the time, the gap that the linebacker is lined up in is the gap that he's assigned to. He's clearly lined up in B gap. 90% of the time, he's going to stay responsible for B gap. So we can use that to our advantage, make sure we stay nice and square here, get over, get the movement, and then get off the line of scrim or off to the linebacker. Okay, same thing here on the other side. They got a head up nose guard. Center's got to get a great drive block. Take this left half of the man. Guard's going to come over and scoop. Again, Mike linebacker's going to see this and probably fill over here to the play side. So we're going to end up probably most of the time, now not always, but having this center kind of scrape off there. Last but not least, on the backside, okay, we have this extra man walked up, so we consider him the end man on the line of scrimmage, or EMO. All right, so he's going to be our read guy. Okay, if he was backed up off the line of scrimmage, now way out here, like this Buck linebacker is over here, we're not going to consider him the end man because he's not on the line of scrimmage anymore. But for this case, the way it's drawn up right now, he's walked up. He's definitely that end man, and we're going to read him, leave him alone. So the backside tackle and the Y are going to get a tray block. Any combo between the tackle and the tight end is going to be a tray, and we're going to be scooping. Now, we don't have a guy identified here. We might have a safety filling down late, but they're going to scoop, stay on that path, and really get this guy pushed. If we get these guys both pushed to the play side, we end up with a big cutback seam, and a lot of times in that 3-4 front, that's where we really get those touchdown blocks happening.